Today is the final installment of our series, Unity is the Study of Truth. And on the front of our program folder, we have the Holy Grail, symbol of the ultimate truth. And we've had the first three subjects were a new identity, and then a new reality, and then a new way. Logical steps. When you awaken to truth, when you start to see the reality of consciousness as the infinite experience of spirit, then your idea of who you are changes. You no longer see yourself as a mere mortal. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And then you look out from that new identity and you see a new reality. We played with reality. You know, reality is where the nature of reality according to physics and the nature of reality according to spiritual teachings is starting to meet. I'm not going to do any more with that. Okay, we've done enough with that. That's And then last week we talked about a new way, which is after you start to recognize, after you start to comprehend these new ideas of truth with a capital T, then your practice changes, your behavior changes, and that is the new way. The practice. That's why we call it practical Christianity, because you practice the actual teachings that Jesus gave us to do. Compassion, forgiveness, generosity, caring. And then, when you get all that going in your life, what happens? You get a new life. And that's where we are today. So now I want to say, who in this room here would like to have a new life? Not necessarily. You like the life you have. Right? Some people, though, really are in a state of real despair and breakdown and would like to have a new life. It's available. But I never approach these subjects with my congregants assuming that you haven't been at this a long time. This is a very progressed group. So I'm not talking to you like, oh, you need a new life, ha, ha, ha. No, I know you've covered a lot of ground in your spiritual journey. But it's kind of newness of life that we're talking about also. So I was reminded of how when people go to Unity Village to take classes, it's really interesting. How many of you have been there to the village, to Unity Village? We're talking about gathering, not very many of us, talking about gathering a group to go in a bus and go out there together to one of the events or programs. But over the years, you know, what they've done is offer in the summertime what used to be called training school, and then it became spiritual enrichment, Unity Institute. They've had all different names, Unity Institute. So when I was going in the 90s, it would be a week of classes. They go 8 to 10 is for Monday through Friday. That's 10 hours. That's one class. 10 to 12, Monday through Friday. That's your second class, 10 hours. And then break for lunch, and then 1 to 3 is your third class, and 3 to 5 is your fourth class. So you're in class from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days a week, studying truth principles, studying unity teachings with a teacher. And by the third day, everybody's high. It's like there was drugs in the water. Everybody's different. There's a different way that people show up about halfway through the week, and by the end of the week you wouldn't think that in a week you could make such deep friendships, but by the end of the week you've solidified into a beautiful family, because that's the power of these teachings, to change your consciousness so quickly, to change your experience so profoundly. But there are some things that I yearn for that are not here yet. Many can identify with that statement. Yes. Well, as the paradigm shifts, we become more and more prescient to it. I see planned communities happening because there's folks who are attracting one another, who are getting together, and they're going to say, we're not going to do it this way anymore. We're not going to continue to pollute the earth. We're not going to continue to enslave ourselves with jobs that have roles that are so limiting. We're not going to continue to teach our children adversarial curriculum. We're going to have interest-based education. We're not going to continue to poison the earth and try to control things with chemicals and toxins. We're not doing it anymore. We're just not buying it. We're going to go over here and have our own little place and do it the way we think is sustainable and fulfilling and positive and not destructive. There are villages that will be formed where people agree to bypass certain givens that everyone accepts as given, our social mores, things that we take as unalterable. No currency. And it's being perpetuated by the use of our media. More and more people have access to mind-opening, mind-expanding influences. I just want to mention Colin Turner videos. He has a whole case that he shows us how the use of the idea of trade and market economy is the very thing that's the destructive influence that we're facing now. Colin Turner videos. So yeah, that's kind of a prophecy. How many agree with that prophecy, that we're going to start seeing these little groups of people getting together, no cars, no currency, we're going to cooperate and be together. Yeah. And we're going to educate our children, letting them develop their interests and talents. But now one thing that is meant by a new life is newness of life. The truth student, a unity person, a spiritually expanded person will never say when they're asked, so how's everything going? They'll never say, same old, same old. That is the antithesis of newness of life. When you start to claim the truth as your way of living, when you embrace the ideas that can constitute a new state of consciousness, you emerge into a new life. We would say that a new life is the result of the first 3 steps covered in the sermons leading up. But a new life is the result of these practices, and it's what you get when you give yourself to spiritual unfoldment completely. So now, in the book of Revelation, we find this phrase, behold, I make all things new. How many of you recognize that? That's a classic statement. Well, I want to share with you the context that it comes out of. It's a classic context. The book of Revelation, not Revelations, right? People say Revelations. It's the revelation of St. John the Divine. So it starts with chapter 21. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. And that's the title that, Eckhart Tolle has used for his book, his second book, A New Earth. Comes right out of this biblical text of Revelation. Okay. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her bridegroom. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And what does that mean? It means that there is a heaven for us right here, right now. You know, in Unity we teach Bible interpretation. Everything in the Bible is happening now, in consciousness, in you. It means that our destiny is to arrive at a place when we do the inner work of choosing positive ideals, choosing to transcend self-centeredness, choosing to honor God in our work, our relationships, our creations, our words. Our destiny is to anchor this goodness, to become established in righteousness and truth. Do I sound like a Bob? Do I sound evangelical? Hey, it's all the same truth. To become established in righteousness and truth, and to create a fixed energetic field that attracts all good and is in a sustained state of peace and exaltation. Exaltation. Praise for the awesomeness of the creation. That's what Jerusalem represents metaphysically, is the anchoring of peace in consciousness. And to that, just add the shift of seeing all things new, seeing your loved ones through new eyes, seeing the phenomena of nature all around you with awe and appreciation and love, seeing the experiences that envelop your life as the perfect expression of the divine, seeing your biggest problem as your greatest teacher. So what are we talking about here, folks? We're talking about the kingdom of heaven. We're talking about that state of consciousness that Jesus gave us, that Jesus offered us. The new life is the kingdom of heaven, and it is symbolized by the Holy Grail. It is the fulfillment of our heart's desire. It is the gratification of our deepest hunger. It is freedom from negative thoughts and negative feelings. It is the power of knowing the truth. Know this and be blessed by it. Amen. Take some really deep breaths. Deeply relax. Turn our attention to what we call the within, but it's not really inside, it's non-local, everywhere. The light, the movement, the activity, the music of the spheres, the divine presence. We now focus on that reality alone. And that reality speaks to us and says, "Behold, I make all things new." And so let us speak these words together now. Together. Behold, I make all things new. And as we vocalize and vibrate our own voices, the sound of our holy temple body vibrates throughout every fiber of our being. Let's say it again together. Behold, I make all things new. Together. Behold, I make all things new. That assurance liberates us, frees us, lifts us, transforms us and all that relates to us. And so in this reality of freedom and limitless power, we now rest in the silence. we feel the wholeness that expands within us. We are complete. We are whole. We are holy. These mysteries we behold. Amen.